Hey everybody, great to see you again for another Browns update. If you're new here, I'm your host, and if you've been rocking with me, then you already know what we're about. This is where we talk Cleveland Browns football, go over the latest news, and I throw in my own take on all of it. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel, and subscribe if you're new. And of course, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. Now, here's what we've got today. So, the Browns are reportedly one of about a dozen teams being discussed in potential trade talks for an elite pass catcher. At first, I'll be honest, I rolled my eyes like, nah, that doesn't make sense. But then I took a second and really thought about it. And actually, yeah, it kinda does. Also, I'm going to tell you why we shouldn't just expect Joe Flacco to suddenly be better in Cleveland this year than he was in Indy last year, which honestly didn't go great. Plus, a longtime Cleveland radio guy is calling out the Browns for the way they're handling this quarterback situation. He says one of the rookie QBs should be groomed to start week 1. And yeah, he's naming names. I'll tell you exactly who he thinks should get the nod. And get this, down in the viewer comments, we've got a Broncos fan showing love to the Browns. I'll talk about that too. But let's start with this Kyle Pitts rumor. Over the weekend, Atlanta put Kyle Pitts on the trade block, and my first reaction was, wait, what? Then I saw Bleacher Report say the Browns are one of 6 teams interested. And again, I was like, huh? That doesn't really make sense for us. But then it started to sink in. Maybe it actually does. There's been talk that Greg Newsome could be involved in a trade. I'm not totally sold on that, to be honest. We do have cornerback depth, but not so much that we can just toss guys away. And player-for-player trades? Those just don't happen often. But if we're talking about giving up a day 2 pick, I'd do that in a heartbeat. So let's talk about Pitts for a second. When he came out of Florida, this dude was hyped as a pass-catching tight end. Yeah, he blocks. But catching the ball is really his thing. And ever since he landed in Atlanta, it's like they never really figured out how to use him. His rookie year, over 1,000 yards receiving. But after that, nothing really clicked. I think Atlanta's still been trying to figure out what their offensive identity even is. They drafted Drake London, they picked up Darnell Mooney, but the offense clearly runs through Bijan Robinson now. They said it last year. They're using him like Christian McCaffrey. And they pretty much did that all season. This is a run-heavy team now. And Kyle Pitts just feels like the odd man out. Now, they've got Charlie Werner as the backup, and he's more of a blocker than anything else. So when I look at it that way, yeah, it makes sense why Pitts is on the block. Especially with Michael Penix Jr. likely to take over at quarterback, who's probably going to be running a lot. That means even less of a role for a pass-catching tight end. But now let's flip this back to the Browns. We've talked on this channel about Harold Fannin Jr. possibly becoming the 3rd wide receiver in a lot of sets. So imagine this. Fannin as your WR3, Pitts and Njoku as your 2 tight ends. Who's stopping that? Seriously. Even better, this is the final year on Njoku's contract. If we can land Pitts and get him locked in long-term, and then Njoku walks next year, boom. Now you've got Fannin and Pitts going into next season. I'm all in on that. And the crazy thing is, we got Jerry Jeudy for a 4th and a 5th. If Andrew Berry can pull off a similar kind of deal for Pitts, man, do it. Get him in here now. That gives us serious weapons. Jeudy, Fannin, Pitts, Njoku, and Cedric Tillman. That makes any quarterback's job easier. And speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk Joe Flacco. He came in last year, came off the couch, led us to the playoffs. I mean, there were songs about the guy. It felt like Bernie Kosar days again for a hot second, but then we hit that Houston playoff game. And yeah, reality came crashing down. It got me thinking, though. What went wrong in Indy? Because when you look at the numbers, his stats from 8 games in Indy last year were nearly identical to the 5 he played with us. And if you include those Jets stats from before, it really shows how rough his last few seasons were before he got that Browns call. I've got a good friend who works for the Colts, and we've talked a lot about this. Flacco was inconsistent, just like in that playoff game. Turnovers were an issue. That's been the knock on him for years. Same pattern in Indy. Started off solid but faded week after week. And here's the thing. Indy didn't have a true UR1. He couldn't build a connection with anyone like he did with Amari Cooper here. So not only did he not have weapons, but that offense just didn't suit him. It was built around Anthony Richardson, who, let's be honest, was the most inaccurate passer in that draft. I still don't understand why they took him. Anyway, Richardson's mobile. The offense is built to move. And Flacco? Not exactly that kind of guy. So now you're probably thinking, if he was so up and down there, why should we expect better here? Well, I think it's because of how we run things. Stefanski's system leans on the run, high-percentage throws, control the clock, play defense. We've got a true WR1 now in Jeudy and more depth all around. So I think Flacco will be better. With us again. Not elite, but definitely more comfortable and effective. And I don't think he's playing all season anyway. If he does, then something's gone wrong. But if and when he does take the field, I think we'll see better results than we saw in Indy. Now let me tell you what Tony Rizzo said, longtime Cleveland sports guy. He's not holding back when it comes to the quarterback competition. He says the Browns are doing it all wrong. According to him, they need to commit to Shedeur Sanders right now. Rizzo went off. He said, this plan is flawed. In New York, they're getting Jackson Dart ready to start. In Tennessee, it's Cam Ward. But here in Cleveland, Shedeur is an afterthought. He went on to say that a young QB needs the team fully behind him. Offense, coaching, support system. And right now, Shedeur's having to claw his way up past 3 guys before he even gets a real shot. And you know what? I don't totally disagree. Right now, it does feel like Shedeur's kind of in the background, but I also believe the Browns are being very calculated about this. We're only 1 week into OTAs. This is a long game. I really think they're going to slowly work this out and make a move that's well thought out, not rushed. But yeah, for now, Rizzo's not wrong. It does feel like Shedeur's getting overlooked a bit. First off, Shedeur, yeah, he's ready. Like, absolutely ready to roll. Now, I'm not saying they're going to throw him in right away, but trust me, they are setting him up to succeed. You can tell. They're laying the groundwork now so that when the time does come, he's walking into a situation built to elevate him, not break him. They don't want this to be some failed experiment. No way. They're going to be intentional, measured. They've got a long-term plan, and Shedeur is a big piece of it. And honestly, I'd say the exact same thing about Dillon Gabriel. I know some fans didn't love the pick. Believe me, I've heard it too. But the broader context here is that the Browns, for the first time in what feels like forever, are actually in a position where they don't have to panic and throw a rookie QB into the fire on day one. And that's huge. That's a luxury we haven't had in years. So even though it might look like Shedeur is being treated like an afterthought right now, I'm telling you, it's calculated. It's going to be baby steps. They're going to give him time to develop, time to learn the system, time to get used to NFL speed, and then when he's ready, watch out. And let's talk about these vets real quick, Pickett and Flacco. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Neither one of these guys is built to last forever. Pickett, talented, sure, but he gets hurt a lot. And Joe Flacco, man, the guy's 40 years old. You don't want to be depending on that arm forever. And yeah, he's still got some juice, but he's also good for a couple head-scratching picks every game. So I think what they're going to do, and it makes sense, is ride the veterans for as long as they can, see what they've got, and keep developing the young guys in the background. If Pickett turns into this year's version of Sam Darnold, fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But in the meantime, I'm all about letting the rookies cook slowly. I mean, just look at the greats. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Favre. Drew Brees sat. Patrick Mahomes didn't touch the field his first year in Kansas City. They all had time to marinate, to soak in the offense, to learn what it means to be an NFL quarterback. And look how it paid off. That's why I lean so heavily toward patience when it comes to young QBs. I get it. Sometimes it works out to start them right away. Stroud looked phenomenal last year. Jaden Daniels gave us flashes. But for every rookie that succeeds immediately, there's another one that gets chewed up and spit out by the league because they weren't ready. And I just don't want that for Shedeur. Or Gabriel, for that matter. Now, of course, not everyone agrees. Tony Rizzle, for example, is ready to throw Shedeur in there right now. That man is hyped up and fully on board the Shedeur train. And honestly, I respect it. Gotta love the passion. But I'm just saying, let's let the man breathe a little first. You know who else should be starting every week, though? You guys. Because the comment section, absolutely on fire lately. So let's highlight a few of y'all who really brought the takes this week. First up, Roger Diz 352 Man, shout out for the username alone. But what he said really hit. He said, as a Broncos fan, don't worry about your PFF ranking. Last year, Pro Football Focus ranked us dead last, like 32 out of 32. Said our offense was hopeless. Just a complete disaster. And yet, boom. Playoffs. They made it. They turned it around. They got Bo Nix, kept building, and proved everyone wrong. That's a great reminder, because these PFF rankings, most of them are just noise. They're based on last year. They don't factor in off-season additions, development, coaching changes, all the stuff that actually matters. And that's exactly what Roger was pointing out. Then we got Busy Bees TV, another banger of a username, said they agreed completely, and brought up the Dillon Gabriel pick again. They reminded us that when that pick came in, it confused a lot of people. And I've said this before. It's not that Gabriel doesn't have talent. It's just that taking him in the 3rd round felt early. Way early. You would have been hard-pressed to find a Browns fan who said, yes, take Gabriel in the 3rd. Now, if we had taken Shedeur in the 3rd and then maybe grabbed Gabriel in the 5th, I don't think anybody would have been upset about that. But the way it played out, it left people scratching their heads. And just to put it in perspective, I was out last night talking to Browns fans, did my own little informal poll. Every single time Dillon Gabriel's name came up in the context of that 3rd-round pick, it was met with headshakes and shrugs. That might go down as one of Andrew Berry's more questionable decisions. I won't say the worst because, let's be real, there's a list, but it's definitely up there. Now Native Black American TV came through with a comment that cracked me up and also made a great point. Said, great show, you're coming. Straight with no off-Browns yapping. All caps, no filter, but hey, he explained, he was just in a rush. But what he said about the defense really stood out. He's absolutely right. Defense wins championships. And no matter what changes on offense, you always need that core identity on D. We've made moves on that side of the ball, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. Brian Fisher, 1823, also dropped a solid point. He said, it's funny. Last year, the so-called experts were saying if Watson was even a shell of himself, the Browns could be a playoff dark horse. But now, suddenly, everyone's acting like this team is talentless, with a washed-up offensive line. Make it make sense. And he brought up a really important detail that's flying under the radar. We completely overhauled the blocking scheme last season. This year, we're going back to the Bill Callahan style. That's a big deal. That changes everything. And nobody's talking about it. He's spot on. Everybody wants to play expert, but they don't look at the full picture. They just throw outtakes based on surface-level stuff. Meanwhile, the real fans, the ones who follow the changes, the shifts, the trends, know better. And honestly, the dust is starting to settle. People are buying in again. And I think a lot of that has to do with one simple thing. We're not tying our entire identity to Deshaun Watson anymore. We tried everything. We bent over backward to make it work. It didn't. Now, we're going back to what works. Kevin Stefanski's system. More balance, more structure, and to me, that's a much better place to be, and finally, we'll close it out with Spurtree 1. Said something that really stuck with me. You have to win now. It's a disservice to the current players if you don't. And I hear that. He also said Dillon was projected as a 5th-round pick and that Andrew Berry needs to be fired. Called it a horrible draft. I mean, it's a strong take, but I get where he's coming from. I do think Shadur and Judkins could be the bright spots of this class. I'd even throw Sampson in there too, especially with what that run game is shaping up to look like. And defensively, Graham and Swetzinger? Those two could be making noise sooner than people think. So yeah, I agree with the idea that we need to win now. But you know what? I think we actually can. I already went ahead and bet the over on 4.5 wins. To me, that's a lock. I've even got action on over 6.5. That's how confident I am. This team is easily a 7-win squad at minimum, and if we get the right breaks, a few things fall into place, who knows, maybe we make a little noise. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for sticking around, for dropping all your incredible comments, and just for riding with me through all the ups and downs. You guys are the real MVPs. Don't forget to like, comment, and, of course, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, go Browns, and I'll catch you next time.